The first thing Detective Tom Bishop noticed wasn't the noise. It was the absence of it. He'd walked into hundreds of crime scenes in his 22 years on the force. Homes where televisions still buzzed in the background, where wind rattled loose blinds, where refrigerators hummed over spilled blood. Life always left behind some faint echo. But his own house, on this night, sounded like it was holding its breath. Tom closed the door quietly, setting his duffel bag down by the shoe rack. He should have been in Boston still, sitting through another mind-numbing lecture about digital forensics. Instead, he'd caught an earlier flight, a small indulgence to surprise his wife after months of missed dinners and silent resentment. The lights were low. The smell of coffee lingered in the air, mixed with something sharper, cologne. Not his. His instincts stirred. He'd learned long ago that a house told the truth when people didn't. The jacket flung across the back of the sofa wasn't his either. Tailored. Pricey. A power jacket, the kind men like Carter Haynes wore when they wanted to be noticed. Tom's pulse thudded, but his steps stayed measured as he walked further inside. Upstairs, the creak of hurried footsteps broke the silence. A door slammed. Then another. The shower turned on. So that's how it was going to be. He paused at the base of the staircase, staring at the photographs lined along the wall. 22 years of life frozen in frames, his daughter Kayla in her prom dress, his son Jack holding a baseball trophy, Elise and Tom on their wedding day smiling like the world was still new. His jaw tightened. Elise? His voice echoed up the stairs, calm but edged with steel. A beat later, she appeared at the landing. Her hair was damp, her face flushed, a towel clutched around her like armor. She forced a smile too quickly, like a guilty suspect rehearsing their alibi. Tom, you're back early. I thought, conferences end early sometimes. He let his gaze drift past her shoulder, toward the cracked open bedroom door. A shadow moved inside, faint but undeniable. Elise swallowed. I wasn't expecting you tonight. No, Tom said softly. I can tell. For a long, taut moment, they held each other's stare. Elise's lips trembled, desperate to stitch together a story. Tom had seen it before, suspects swearing they didn't know how the drugs got in the glove box, how the blood got on their shirt, how the Rolex ended up on the wrong nightstand. Lies always carried the same nervous shine. A thud came from upstairs, breaking the stalemate. Someone had just dropped something heavy. Tom's voice didn't rise, but it grew colder. Is that Carter? Her eyes widened. Too much, too fast. That gave her away. The detective in Tom wanted to storm up those stairs, haul the man out by his collar, and end it there. But the husband in him, the husband who'd worked doubles to pay the mortgage, who'd missed anniversaries for overtime, who still remembered the taste of their first kiss outside a movie theater, he wanted the truth laid bare. Not whispered. Not hidden. Dragged into the light. He turned away from the staircase and reached for his phone. His thumb hovered over the contact labeled Linda Bishop Hartwell, mother-in-law. He almost smiled. If Elise thought she was good at cover stories, she had clearly forgotten who taught Tom the art of interrogation. Linda, the woman who could sniff out secrets like bloodhounds sniff out contraband. He pressed call. Tom? Why on earth are you ringing so late? Her voice came crackling, warm with curiosity. Linda, Tom said, his eyes still locked on Elise. How'd you like to come over for breakfast tomorrow? Bring George. I think Elise would love the surprise. On the landing, his wife's knuckles whitened against the railing. Oh, she'll be thrilled, Linda chirped. We'll be there at 7 sharp. Perfect, Tom murmured. See you then. He hung up and slid the phone into his pocket. Elise opened her mouth, panic glinting in her eyes, but Tom silenced her with a look he'd used in interrogation rooms for 2 decades. A look that said, don't bother. The shower upstairs stopped. Another silence fell, this one heavier, waiting to be broken. Tom picked up his duffel bag again and set it against the wall. His voice was almost gentle, but it cut like glass. Sleep well, Elise. You'll need the rest. And with that, he turned off the downstairs light, leaving the house in shadow. Tomorrow, there would be no lies. Tomorrow, there would be witnesses. The morning light had a way of revealing things that darkness politely concealed. For Tom Bishop, it revealed too much. He hadn't slept. Instead, he sat at the kitchen table with a cup of black coffee gone cold, staring at the empty driveway where Carter's silver BMW had slipped away under cover of night. Elise moved around the upstairs bedroom in hushed steps, the floorboards groaning with her every shift. Tom didn't call her up. Didn't demand answers. Not yet. He wanted her to sweat. The Bishop house had always been a modest place, 2 stories of brick and cedar siding in a quiet New England neighborhood. To outsiders, it was a postcard. 2 cars. 2 kids. A wife with a rising career in advertising. A husband in uniform. Perfectly ordinary. But ordinary homes had cracks too, and once you started listening, you could hear them spreading like spiderwebs in glass. Tom sipped from his mug and thought about those cracks. Elise had been distant for months. Excuses about late meetings. Unanswered texts. Laughter that didn't quite reach her eyes. And Kayla, their 18-year-old daughter, had taken to rolling hers whenever Tom asked simple questions about Elise's schedule. "She's busy, Dad. You wouldn't get it," she'd say, always protective of her mother. Jack was different. 20 years old, studying computer science at the university nearby, sharp like his old man but with a calmer edge. Jack still came around for dinner when his schedule allowed, still asked Tom about cases, still watched old Red Sox games with him on weekends. The boy had inherited Tom's sense of quiet loyalty. Now, with the morning stretching towards 7, Tom was waiting for his audience. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway broke the stillness. A compact sedan. His in-laws. Linda's voice, high and excited, reached him before she even opened the door. "Tom? We brought bagels!" He almost pitied Elise. Almost. Linda swept into the kitchen with the energy of a stage actress, her husband George trailing behind like a man resigned to his role as background scenery. She carried a paper bag in one hand, a thermos in the other, her perfume announcing her arrival as much as her words. "Isn't this fun?" she said. "Elise will be so surprised. She loves when we do things like this." Tom forced a smile, the kind he wore at funerals. "She'll be surprised, all right." George gave him a wary look but said nothing. The old man had always been more observant than people gave him credit for. Footsteps sounded from upstairs, hurried, then halted. Elise's voice floated down. "Mom? Dad?" She appeared on the landing, hair combed now, face painted into something resembling composure. She wore Tom's Academy sweatshirt, as if draping herself in nostalgia might soften what was about to happen. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her smile straining. "Breakfast," Linda sang, as though the words solved everything. "Tom invited us. Isn't that lovely?" Elise's eyes flicked to Tom, wide with warning. He simply lifted his coffee mug in acknowledgement. Before she could respond, another sound carried through the house, the unmistakable thud of someone bumping into furniture upstairs. Silence dropped like a curtain. Linda's head tilted, her expression shifting from delight to suspicion. George straightened slowly, his brows furrowed. Elise's smile crumbled. Tom set his mug down deliberately. "Dedicated employees, huh? Up at the crack of dawn for strategy sessions in my bedroom." The upstairs door creaked. A man's figure emerged into view, rumpled shirt in one hand, shoes in the other. Carter Haynes. Wealthy, confident Carter, who suddenly looked like a boy caught sneaking through a window. Linda gasped, the sound sharp and theatrical. "Isn't that your boss?" Elise stammered. "It's not." But Carter froze at the landing, his eyes darting between the faces below. Tom's stone cold. Linda's, gleefully horrified. George's, heavy with shame. Elise's, pleading for a miracle. Tom rose slowly from his chair, his voice calm enough to make Carter flinch. "Don't stop on our account, Carter. Coffee's still hot. Bagels too." No one moved. In that moment, the ordinary home was gone. It had become a courtroom. And Tom Bishop, the detective who'd seen every kind of lie a human being could tell, was judge and executioner. The kitchen smelled of burnt toast and cold cream cheese, but it was the silence that dominated. No one touched the bagels Linda had so proudly carried in. Carter descended the stairs with forced dignity, his shirt half-buttoned, his shoes dangling from his hand. Elise trailed behind him, whispering his name in a frantic hiss like she could will him invisible. But Carter wasn't invisible. He was framed in the soft morning light like a guilty painting come alive. Tom leaned against the counter, arms folded. He looked less like a husband and more like a detective closing in on a suspect. His calmness was scarier than shouting. "Morning meeting, huh?" he said softly. "Didn't realize strategy required boxers and undershirts." Carter's face flushed. He cleared his throat. "Tom, look, this is not what it looks like." Tom cut in, his voice quiet but razor sharp. "You'd be surprised how often I hear that in interrogation rooms." Linda pressed a hand to her chest like a stage actress delivering shock to the cheap seats. George just sat down, heavily, like the weight of his daughter's betrayal had snapped something inside him. "Elise Marie," Linda said, her voice trembling between anger and excitement. "What have you done?" Elise turned, eyes darting, hands trembling. "Mom, please. It's complicated. It looks pretty simple from here," Tom replied. "My wife of 22 years. My house. My shirt. My kitchen table." He let the words hang, each one a nail in the coffin. Carter tried to step forward, but Tom blocked him with nothing more than a stare. The kind of stare that had made gang members confess and liars crumble. "Sit down, Carter," Tom said. "Or better yet, don't. This isn't your house." The room vibrated with tension. Elise broke first. "You had no right to bring them here, Tom," she snapped, voice sharp, almost desperate. "This is between us." "No," Tom said, his voice steady as stone. "This stopped being between us the moment you let another man into our bed. Now it's about truth. And truth doesn't hide in the dark." Her lips trembled. "You've been absent, Tom. You bury yourself in work. You shut me out. What was I supposed to do?" Tom's jaw tightened. "You were supposed to talk to me. Not crawl into bed with your boss." The words hit like gunfire. Elise flinched. Carter set his shoes down, his voice lower now, attempting reason. "Look, I think we should all calm down." "Elise and I, you and Elise?" Tom stepped closer, his tone dropping to a dangerous calm. "You've been screwing my wife under my roof, and you think calm is the right word here?" Carter froze. For a second, he looked like he might fight back. Then Tom smiled, a humorless smile that carried 20 years of interrogations behind it. "You know what's funny? That Rolex you left upstairs. Elise said she bought it at a garage sale. Cute story. Shame it matches the tan line on your wrist." Carter instinctively covered his wrist. The room tilted toward chaos. Linda gasped again, George muttered something under his breath, Elise's face went pale. "You're done here," Tom said flatly. He walked to the back door and yanked it open. Morning sunlight spilled in. "Your car's in the driveway. Use it." Carter glanced at Elise, desperate for a lifeline. She looked back with a silent plea, but her silence was answer enough. Carter grabbed his shirt and fled, the slam of the front door echoing like a verdict. Now it was just family. Linda's fury ignited. "You've disgraced this family, Elise! After everything Tom gave you, enough!" Elise shouted, tears finally spilling. "You don't understand. You never do. I can't." She stopped herself, voice breaking. Tom's chest rose and fell slowly. He could end it right here. Pack a bag. Call a lawyer. Let the wreckage burn. But something inside him shifted, something darker and sharper. This wasn't just betrayal. This was an insult to every sacrifice he'd ever made. Elise thought she could twist the story, play the victim, rewrite the narrative. Carter thought he could swagger into another man's house, leave his Rolex behind, and walk away untouched. No. Tom wasn't going to walk away. He straightened, eyes hard as glass. You want to talk about being absent, Elise? Fine. I've been absent. But I'm here now. And I'm done playing the fool. She blinked, confused. What do you mean? Tom glanced at Linda and George, still frozen in disbelief. He picked up his jacket from the chair, his movements deliberate. It means, he said, slipping his arms through the sleeves, that Carter isn't the only one who knows how to play games. And I'm better at them than he'll ever be. The room went still. Tom turned toward the door, his voice calm but chilling. Enjoy your breakfast. You're going to need the energy. And then he was gone, leaving the house heavy with dread. Because Tom Bishop, detective, husband, betrayed man, had just decided on something Elise would never see coming. The house felt heavier after Carter's exit, like every wall had absorbed the humiliation and was pressing inward. Elise hovered at the kitchen doorway, still clutching Tom's sweatshirt around her frame, her face streaked with tears. Linda stood rigid, her mouth a thin line of fury, while George muttered into his coffee like a man who had already surrendered. Tom didn't stay to mop up the wreckage. He walked straight to his car, ignoring Elise's voice calling his name. By the time he pulled into the precinct, the sun was fully risen, but his chest felt dark and storm-filled. Ray, his partner of 8 years, was already at his desk. He looked up, eyebrows raised at Tom's face. You look like hell. Because I've been living in it, Tom muttered. Ray slid a cup of coffee across the desk. Want to talk? Tom hesitated, then gave him the bare bones, the Rolex, the BMW, the ambush with the in-laws, Carter scrambling down the stairs like a teenager. Ray whistled low. Damn. That's cold. Yeah, Tom said, his voice flat. But I'm colder. For a long beat Heather spoke. Then Tom's phone buzzed. A text from Jack. Dad. Heard something happened. Mom's crying. Kayla's saying it's your fault. Want me to come over? Tom typed back, meet me tonight. Murphy's. 8. He slipped the phone away, his chest tightening. Jack knew. Kayla, too, in her own way. The family fault line had cracked wide open. That night, Murphy's bar buzzed with low voices and clinking glasses. Jack was already there, leaning on the corner booth, his laptop bag slung over one shoulder. He looked older in that dim light, more serious, like the boyhood had burned out of him overnight. Dad? Son? They sat. Tom ordered them 2 beers, though Jack barely touched his. So, Jack began carefully. How bad is it? Your mom, Tom said, staring into his glass, was in bed with Carter Haynes. In our house. While I was gone. Jack exhaled, his jaw tightening. I figured. Kayla, she's defending her. Says you've been cold absent. Says Mom deserves happiness. Tom barked a bitter laugh. Happiness? That what we're calling betrayal these days? Jack leaned in. She's 18. She sees Mom as glamorous, successful. You as strict. Old-fashioned. Tom's throat tightened. I gave them everything. All the doubles I worked, all the cases I took. I did it for this family. And this is what I get. Jack's voice softened. I know, Dad. I know. For a moment, Tom's facade cracked. He covered his eyes with one hand, trying to steady himself. I can't let him win, Jack. Carter walks away, gets to keep his life, his reputation, his power, while I'm the fool who lost his wife and half his family? Jack's gaze sharpened. So don't let him. Tom looked at his son then, really looked. Jack wasn't a boy anymore. He was a man staring at injustice and choosing sides. You're good with computers, right? Tom asked. Jack's mouth curled. Better than you, old man. Tom slid a folder across the table. Receipts, expense reports, notes he'd pulled from databases and contacts. This is what I've got. Carter's sloppy. He's been charging personal luxuries to the company, moving money around. Not enough for prison, yet. but enough to burn him down. Jack flipped through the pages, his eyes widening. Dad, this could ruin him. That's the point. Jack hesitated. And Mom? Tom's face hardened. She made her choice. She chose Carter. She can live with the fallout. Jack nodded slowly, but his eyes flickered with something else, pity, maybe, or fear of what this path would cost his father. Later that night, Tom sat alone in the driveway, the house looming dark in front of him. Elise's car was there, lights glowing faintly in the living room. Through the window, he saw her sitting on the sofa, Kayla curled beside her. Elise's hands stroked their daughter's hair, the picture of maternal tenderness. Tom's chest ached. For a fleeting second, he wondered if he was the villain in Kayla's eyes. The stern father who couldn't forgive. The man who valued justice more than mercy. Then he remembered Carter's watch glinting on his nightstand. Elise's quick lies. The way she blamed him for her choices. No. He wasn't the villain. But he was done being the victim. He started the car, the engine growling in the night, and drove away with a clarity that chilled him to the bone. The stage was set. The trap was waiting. And Carter Haynes was about to learn what it meant to cross a man who made a career out of exposing lies. The news broke on a Thursday morning. Pinnacle Advertising CEO Carter Haynes terminated amid allegations of financial misconduct. Tom read the headline in the precinct break room, the coffee machine sputtering behind him. A grainy photo of Carter filled half the page, not the polished executive smile Elise admired, but a pale, sweating man walking out of his office under escort. Tom folded the paper slowly. He should have felt triumph. Instead, it was something heavier, like standing over a suspect who finally confessed. Justice, yes, but never joy. His phone buzzed. Elise. He let it ring twice before answering. Tom. Her voice trembled, frantic. Did you see? They fired him. They're investigating everything. This is a disaster. Tom leaned against the counter, his tone even. Funny word, disaster. I'd call it consequences. Don't you dare. She snapped. Don't you dare act like you had nothing to do with this. I didn't make Carter falsify expense reports, Tom said calmly. I didn't make him steal from his company. He did that all on his own. Her silence crackled through the line. Then, softly, they're questioning my promotion. Everything he gave me, they're taking it all back. For a moment, Tom closed his eyes. The woman who once swore forever was now begging for scraps of another man's empire. You chose him, Elise, he said finally. Now you get to live with what he left you. He hung up. That evening, Jack arrived at the house. The boy's face was pale, his jaw tight. He didn't knock, just walked in and set his backpack on the kitchen table. Kayla told me, he said. Tom frowned. Told you what? She says Mom's pregnant. The word detonated between them. Pregnant. Tom felt the floor tilt under his feet. He grabbed the back of a chair, his knuckles white. How far along? 6 weeks, Jack whispered. Do the math, Dad. Tom did. 6 weeks ago, he'd been working back-to-back homicide shifts, stumbling into bed half-dead. The child wasn't his. The room blurred. He saw Elise's face when they were young, laughing in a cheap diner booth. He saw their wedding photo. He saw her in his sweatshirt, standing guilty on the staircase with Carter behind her. And now, a child that wasn't his. Tom's chest hollowed out. He sat, elbows on the table, head in his hands. Jack's voice broke. Dad, what are you going to do? Tom looked up slowly. His son's eyes were wet, angry, protective. What I always do, Tom said. His voice was raw, gravel scraped across concrete. I'll handle it. 2 days later, Tom stood outside Carter's real home, the one with the manicured lawn and the swing set in the backyard. Through the window, Carter's wife set the dinner table while 2 children colored at the counter. They had no idea their father had been fired, disgraced, exposed. No idea he'd impregnated another woman. Tom's phone buzzed again. Elise. A text this time, we need to talk. Please. He didn't reply. Instead, he took one last look at the house, the innocent family inside. The kind of family Elise had destroyed without blinking. Then he turned away. The final blow came a week later in the courtroom. Carter, arrested for embezzlement, stood in shackles as prosecutors read the charges. Elise sat in the gallery, pale and trembling, her pregnancy a visible weight she could not hide. And then, the texts. Read aloud, projected for the jury. Tom never spends money like this. You deserve better. Don't worry about money, baby. I've got it covered. Tom sat beside Jack, his hands clenched on his knees. Jack's body went rigid as the words echoed. She called you a loser, Jack whispered. I've been called worse, Tom muttered. But the truth stung deeper than any insult. The verdict came down sharp as a guillotine. Carter guilty on multiple counts. Elise charged as complicit. When they led her away in cuffs, Elise turned once, her eyes locking with Tom's. There was no anger left there. No lies. Only the hollow look of someone who finally understood she had gambled everything, and lost. Tom didn't flinch. Outside, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Kayla screamed at him, tears streaming, blaming him for everything. Linda hissed, "You destroyed her life." Tom didn't break stride. His voice cut like steel as he answered, "She destroyed it herself. I just refused to cover for her." Jack walked at his side, silent but solid. And for the first time since the Rolex gleamed on his nightstand, Tom felt something close to relief. It wasn't joy. It wasn't victory. It was truth. And truth was enough. 6 months later, the house was quiet. Not the brittle silence of suspicion, not the suffocating hush of betrayal. Just quiet. Tom Bishop sat on the back porch with a beer in his hand, the summer air thick with crickets and the faint hum of traffic from the highway. The wooden boards beneath him were warm, worn from years of family barbecues and birthday candles extinguished with laughter. But those memories now felt like photographs that belonged to someone else. The papers had called it a sensational downfall. Carter Haynes sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for embezzlement. His wife divorced him, moved west with their children. Elise, convicted of conspiracy and money laundering, was serving 18 months at a minimum security facility an hour away. Pregnant, shackled in court, stripped of everything she once flaunted. Kayla refused to speak to Tom. She visited her mother every weekend, clinging to the belief that Elise had been a victim rather than a co-conspirator. She posted angry tirades online, painting her father as the executioner of their family. Jack stayed close. He came by with groceries, fixed Tom's old laptop, kept his father's nights from turning too quiet. But even between them, there were silences too heavy to fill. On the porch, Tom tilted his head back, staring at the stars. He thought about the word Elise had chosen for the baby. Hope. Ironic, cruel, or maybe just desperate. A child born into scandal, carrying a name that sounded more like a prayer. He hadn't seen the baby yet. Didn't know if he ever would. Jack had urged him once, gently. She didn't do anything wrong, Dad. She didn't ask to be born into this mess. And Tom knew his son was right. But wounds didn't heal on command. Some of them calcified, becoming part of the bone. Inside, the house remained stripped bare of her presence. No perfume bottles on the dresser, no laughter bouncing off the walls, no late-night whispers behind closed doors. Just Tom and the truth, sitting in the space where lies used to live. Ray dropped by sometimes, carrying poker chips and cheap beer, insisting that Tom had won. That losing a cheating wife wasn't really a loss. That Carter's downfall and Elise's prison sentence were victories to savor. But victories tasted hollow when you had no one to share them with. Tom finished his beer and set the bottle down carefully. The porch creaked as he stood, his gaze sweeping the yard where weeds had begun to push through the cracks in the patio stones. For the first time in years, the house wasn't lying to him. There were no secrets, no shadows. Just truth, hard, unvarnished and heavy. He stepped inside, into the living room. On the shelf, a single photo remained, Jack and Kayla as children, holding sparklers on a 4th of July evening, faces glowing with innocence. Tom reached out, brushing the glass with his thumb. For a moment, his throat tightened. The marriage was ashes now. The family fractured. But the embers, the love for his children, the stubborn spark of dignity, still glowed. He turned off the lights, letting the darkness settle. Tomorrow would come, with or without him. He would get up, put on his badge, and keep doing the only thing he knew, searching for truth in a world built on lies. Because in the end, that was all a man had. Not promises. Not rings. Not Rolexes left behind on nightstands. Just the truth. And the truth, Tom Bishop decided, would be enough to build a life on.